What's going on, everybody? BobbyFi, and we're back with NFL. Hope you guys checked out. Rody and I did a little quick sum up of what we sort of thought about the season. Then we talked a little bit about the Showdown slate, and then Showdown slates in general. We talked about main slates, the main slate, and what we were thinking about doing. We're going to talk Showdown here. Sheets is stretching; he's getting ready for it. It's going to be a fun one. So I'm going to be entering quite a few lineups tonight, just because it's been a while and I miss football. But as always, you want to try and get creative while trying not to be too far, off of what is realistically possibly going to happen. But Sheets, do you have any sort of general Showdown thoughts you want to share, or do you want to just jump straight into it?
Yeah. So first of all, I am cautiously looking forward to football, just like last year. And for those of you who were following us last year, basically it was awesome because I whined about how I hate football. And the very first week, I think I got second in Yahoo for 50,000. I was basically free rolling the whole season.
Yeah.
So I don't want to tempt the NFL guys by doing the same exact thing. Okay. But yeah, NFL, I can't. It's so funny when I see all the incredible prize pools. I know I should play more and higher and more lineups in general. I just, for whatever reason, don't. Like I play 20 lineups max pretty much in anything. And that's just what I do, whether it be in the Millie Maker, whether it be in anything, and whether it be even in Showdown. And maybe it's just ADHD or whatever that I just like, or OCD. I just like to play the 20. And it's what I feel comfortable with. But I am going to get into the NFL. Maybe I'll play a couple of more of these. Like maybe I'll take a couple of shots to the Wildcat this year. And we'll see how that goes. But I do, I do still look at these things as just kind of like a puzzle and intellectually interesting. And that's why I do want to talk about the Showdown a little bit, because there's a couple of things that I kind of alluded to in my own video, which I want to, I guess, talk about, and then go over things that we talk about a lot. So as far as Showdowns go, I do think a couple of things. Number one is that yes, it's very important to attempt to be somewhat unique and different, to maximize your EV, to take the whole thing down or whatever. But I've come to feel as though the people sometimes take that too far, and they get way too crazy in the names of being unique. Like to pick to the extreme, I could pick 6 guys who I know are not going to suit up and promise you that it's going to be a unique lineup. Okay. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean I should be playing it. And it's that balance between doing something unique and actually having a chance to win is a tough thing to do, and that's the one thing I would say is that I actually got really, really, I won't say lucky, but I did really, really well towards the end of last season in the Showdowns, and then even with the hockey and the basketball and all the Showdowns. And I think one adjustment I made was not going too freaking bananas, and you know what, if it meant chopping it with 11 people, that's good too. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that bad. That's the first thing I would say. The other thing that I would say, and we're going to probably fight about this, but we'll get to the fight part in a second. Let's get to the thing I think we can agree on, is that one way that you can be unique without going too crazy is by taking money, is by leaving money on the table. That doesn't mean leave 10,000 on the table, right? But leaving money on the table, even though it's a technique that a lot of players use nowadays, I feel as though, still that's probably optimal. You know what I mean? As far as just generating uniqueness without going too crazy. Mm-hmm. But the thing that we might have a fight about is this. And again, look, I watched what's their names, like Big T and Chopper do Showdown stuff for years, right? Mm-hmm. And what they would say all the time, what other people say all the time, is that, listen, what you got to do is you got to develop a game script and create your lineups like based on that or whatever. I'm sort of the belief that that's not, I don't want to say a bunch of nonsense, but I'm of the belief that it's something that people say after the fact to justify why lineups did well, and that it's you can calculate a game script however you want. But the thing is that in football, there's so much freaking variance in football because it's so event driven, and so much variance in football in a Showdown slate specifically that I think that if you take that to the extreme, I think you're asking for trouble. Like if you get like let's just say you get like a $2,000 wide receiver that gets like a touchdown, it really doesn't matter what your game, you know what I mean? Like if you don't have him because you had some game script that you didn't want one running back with another defense, or you want a wide receiver, whatever, you just want to, in my opinion at least, just try to find guys with kind of like wild upside that if they hit, you're like you're like in great shape. And I wouldn't worry as much about the game script stuff as it would be trying to find the good individual plays. And again, that could be blasphemy or whatever, but that's kind of where my brain is right now.
Well, I'll definitely say we are definitely on different pages then.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in game script, especially when it comes to NFL. And one thing that Brody and I talked quite a bit about, one thing that we've made money on is fourth string wide receivers and second string running backs and sometimes third string running backs.
Yeah. But we're saying sort of the same thing. But my point is that if you like some third string wide receiver or whatever it is, and then don't play them because, well, you feel as though they're going to control the game on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's asking for it.
Right. I understand. It makes enough sense to me, but it's,
all right.
well, I just personally think that's how you can find a little bit of an edge. And in the lineups where I'm playing, it's not like I'm talking about, like, I'm going to play Dak Prescott as my captain. I'm probably going to have two receivers. I just might be like Gallup and Wilson rather than, Amari and CD or something like that. All right, well, let's pull up your screen and we'll talk through some plays.
Yeah.
For those of you guys who haven't checked it out, I did post my exact ownerships on using DraftKings Lineup HQ. I'm sorry, RotoGrinders Lineup HQ, and it's all on TrueDFS.com. Again, free for the first month. Just wanted to get that in there. Well, and go ahead, Sheets.
The one thing I would say, by the way, is that if you listen to both to Bobby and to Rody, one thing that they do know a lot about that I don't know as much about is actual football. You know what I mean? Like, and this is one of the things that makes Bobby like so awesome in basketball as well, is that, is that projections, there are things that the projections just can't see, and they can't capture, and data points can't capture. And that is, actual basketball strategy and football strategy that coaches could employ that could just turn all the projections or whatever upside down. And when I was, as we're getting right into like what I like in the Showdown slate, one of the things that I overheard Rody say, and I think you agreed with, and it does seem, pretty logical, but, you have to be able to translate that to good lineups, is the idea that Tom Brady as a quarterback likes to disperse the ball. He likes to share the ball. And I think it's both because he's been around for so long that he knows to look for his third, fourth, fifth, sixth guy. And I think also from like an ego and game management perspective, he likes to keep everybody happy. He likes to, and if it's one of those games where he has like the full view of the field, he's like, AB hasn't got one in a while. Your turn. XYZ's been running huge slant patterns, getting beat up all day. Haven't seen him in a while. Boom. Let's get to him. So the combination of being just the greatest quarterback of all time, you know what I mean? Being able to like identify everybody and the actual desire to identify everybody. I think that for me, I think that's a very, very sharp take. And maybe it's not even that sharp. Maybe everybody knows that. But for me, that even though this lineup that you see right now has Godwin in the captain, I think that Brady in the captain is just super sharp. You know what I mean? And super sharp, it's like, on the one hand, yeah, it's pretty obvious, but on the other hand, it's sharp because I could play Brady in the captain and not play like that many receivers also, because you know what I mean? Like, what'll happen if he sends it to three guys? Does that win? Maybe, but not necessarily. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, you could play Brady with maybe, I don't want to say Brady necessarily naked, but Brady in the captain. I think that's the way I'm actually gonna start playing like one big one in the showdowns, which I got used to doing. Like I'm playing one in the 180. I don't even know that's a big one. I guess that's not even a big one, but
No,
I'm
no,
playing
I mean, it's big. It's not the biggest thing.
right. For me, it's a big one. And I'm putting Brady right in the captain in that one, you know, because it makes perfect sense to me. He's going to control the game, presumably going to control the game. He's going to disperse. And I think that's the right idea. Is that kind of where you're at, or where are you at with respect to captain in this game?
I'm avoiding actually Brady in my bigger my bigger ones as a captain. I actually had more interest in Dak in this game, and I think it is partially like I'm looking at it from a game script standpoint, like just what they're going to need him to do versus what Brady will have to do. Not to mention that in addition to having all those receivers to throw to, they have I expect the running game to have a pretty good day here against Dallas. So
really, okay.
I like the idea. I'm playing all three of their running backs in different spots, and two of them together in some spots. But what I sort of lean on as captain has mostly been wide receivers and a little bit of Dak. But mostly I'm going wide receiver captain tonight to try. I don't want to say to get different because there's going to be some other people who do that too. But I'll tell you what, I don't think a lot of people are going to play Antonio Brown as the captain. I don't think a lot of people are going to play Michael Gallup as the captain. And I'm more than happy to take those shots. And it's not that the savings even bring you so much. It's just these guys can literally hit on 2 plays and outscore the quarterback, basically, with the way that DraftKings is structured. So I'm interested in that. I really like, I also think in this particular slate, like I think Dallas's offense is going to be awesome this year, but this Tampa Bay defense is no joke, and they can get after the quarterback. So I don't mind taking some shots with the defense as well. I probably wouldn't captain the defense. I am not going to captain the kicker, but the kicker, both Suckup and the defense are both in some of my lineups. And again, you don't like the game script as much, but I sort of like pairing those with either Ronald Jones. Those will be where I play Ronald Jones or Fournette. In my other lineups, I'm going to play some Gio Bernard. And in those lineups, I will have Brady as captain more often because I'm going with a pass game script. And I'll have one other receiver there.
I have currently Bernard as my highest owned, I think, position player, just as a way to just get, just to do something different. I think not that he necessarily is going to be that off the board,
right?
But I don't think that many people are going to make him their highest owned guy. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they will. No knows. But I do like him a decent amount. And like you said, I mean, Dallas is. If I'm not mistaken, Dallas has bled like all kinds of yards all over the goddamn place. And
and their defense will probably be better this year. And maybe you get a slow start, which Brody was sort of predicting for Tampa Bay. But still, I just don't buy it. I'm still going to take the side, especially this Tampa Bay offense is just really loaded. And it kind of makes it fun for a showdown slate because we can take options on some of these other guys. I mean, Antonio Brown is going to be my highest owned player. I'm playing. I guess part of the thing I can do for this is try to talk about the guys who I'm way over the field on and the guys I'm way under the field on. Like if Zeke beats me, he's going to beat me. Okay. I'm just going to be way under the field. I will be way over the field on Pollard. I will be way over the field on Antonio Brown. I will be under the field on Mike Evans. I'll be near the field with Godwin. I'll be way above the field. Well, not way above the field. I'll be very high on Dak Prescott, which everybody will be. And I will be a little bit lower on Tom Brady, leaning a little bit more on their running game and their defense for this particular matchup. But that's what I've got right now. And my Antonio Brown argument is, I really think this is, it wouldn't look, this guy was the best receiver in football. He had to come to a team midway through the season and all the stuff. And, you run different gimmicks and they already have 2-star receivers and everything. Well, there's a whole offseason now that they've played together. I love the idea of taking Antonio Brown. Well, not only is he cheaper, he's going to be lower owned. And I think using him as everybody thinks of him almost as a possession receiver now. And it wasn't long ago, this guy was the best big play receiver in the game before there was a Tyreek Hill. So I'm very, very high on Brown. I'm very high on Gallup to try and get off of the Amari and CD chalk. Again, I'll play some of those guys as well, but I want to make sure to force in the Gallup, and I'm happy to leave up to like 4,500 on the table on this particular slate. I prefer Ronald Jones over Leonard Fournette. I prefer Pollard over Zeke, and that's sort of what I'm doing is going with my backup running back things in 3rd and 4th string receivers.
So I have a football take. So here's a football take, and for those of you who were following last year, I was particularly interested in Zeke, both on him and fading him like all last year. Like Zeke actually got there to beat me out of first in that Yahoo tournament that I referred to. And there were other times during the course of the year where I needed him where he could do nothing. So I was watching him a lot last year. And I'm going to tell you something. Zeke was freaking washed last year. Okay. He was not good at all. He dropped like swing passes coming out of the backfield. And they kept feeding him. You know what I mean? They kept doing it. And when Pollard actually was in the game, he was, I mean, this is maybe a terrible take. He was much better than Zeke. He just was. Okay. And that was my eye test, whatever. And now with that said, so going into this year, there's been all kinds of coach speak, narrative speak, everybody speak, how Zeke looks just totally different, that he's ready to freaking kill. You know what? Go try it. I myself, I have zero Zeke in this game. Okay. And Zeke, by the way, I'll shout out to Rody on this one. I actually picked Zeke. I have one season long league, and I do have Zeke as my number one pick. He told me to pick him, and it dropped to me, so I picked him, and so it's great. If it comes in, it comes in. But I look on a showdown slate where you can, where you want to do a little something different. I will have zero of that. My game script type scenarios here is I'm going to have Prescott and Gallup, and Prescott and Cooper. I'm having none of the Dallas running game at all.
I makes sense to me. I mean, look, so we have, if Zeke was going to be low owned and playing a defense that I expect him to carve up, I actually expect him to have a bounce back year. I'm on that train, but I am not going to play at high ownership a guy against the number one defense when I need to try and get different anyway. And I've got one game to choose from. This is the best run defense in the NFL, and has been for a couple of years. Even when they were playing in shootouts with Jameis, they've been an awesome run defense. Yep. But I am choosing to go to Pollard because of that. Because I do think that there is a path for him on third downs to catch some balls, which on DraftKings, we know that's really important. And we know how Brady loves to throw. We know how Brady loves to throw the ball to his running back. Well, Dak has not been as much that guy in the past. But I think when Pollard is in the game, you're going to see a little bit of a different, at least some upside for Pollard. And his 4,200 price tag is nice. So that is what I'm doing. I'm high on Pollard and lower on Zeke for this game. Now, if Zeke, runs for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, I'm not going to be the least bit surprised, and you don't need to add us. We're trying to find ways to get different. And like I said, if you're going to tell me Zeke was 10% owned on this slate, I'd have 50% of him. If he's going to be 50% owned, I'm going to have 10% of him. That's the way I'm approaching this with Zeke personally. There are some game scripts that I've gone through where I like the Brady and plus 2 receivers, and potentially even including the 2,200 guy that we like. Why was his name escaping me all of a sudden? Bernard.
Yeah.
Where I might have a Zeke in one of those lineups or something, but it's not going to be much for me. And Suckup, one of the running backs and the defense from Tampa Bay is a nice correlating pairing for me. I could see Tampa Bay forcing turnovers and it being sort of that kind of a struggle for Dallas and giving them a hard time. I could see the Suckup, having not to forget extra points and field goals. I feel like he could have put up double-digit points pretty easily in this spot. And I think that the running game, thinking that would be the way they'd be playing if they're up by 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns late in the third, early fourth. They'll still throw it every now and then. They don't mess around. They will go for you. And they may want to send a message, hey, we're still here and all that stuff. But I still think that you're going to see a lot of that running game, which is really good against a Dallas defense that I'm not sure can stop it yet. So Ronald Jones, I actually prefer over Fournette today, but I'll have Bernard mixed in, and I'll have 2 of them together in a number of spots.
Let me ask you something. When you're thinking of playing a kicker, should you argue that you don't want to play the kicker with the wide receivers for the same team? Because if the wide receivers are scoring touchdowns, then the kickers are not getting field goals?
Yes, unless they're receiver. So for big play receivers, that might be more so true. Okay. Because then they're scoring touchdowns, whereas a guy like Antonio Brown can catch 10 balls for 70 yards, and he's going to get 10 points just on that. That could actually lend itself to being good for the kickers. But I do think they'll gamble too somewhat. So they'll go for it on the 4th and shorts in this game. I think they will probably try and send a little bit of a message. So I like Suckup. If no one was going to be on him, that'd be one thing. He's going to have some ownership. One thing we didn't talk about was a guy who I want to just highlight here is Cameron Brate is a guy who, so I would expect Gronk to not have much of a year. I don't see why they would mess around with him during the season very much. Like, make sure he's healthy for the playoffs, have your few things, maybe he breaks a big play and ruins me, whatever. I want to take some shots on Brate and even a little bit on OJ Howard, but Brate in the red zone is a real thing, and it has been since before Tom Brady was there. And Cameron Brate is a guy who I think you want to try to squeeze in a little bit of. I also think you want to try on the other side, especially if you're going to captain Dak Prescott. You want some Blake Jarwin in there. I'm high on Blake Jarwin in general for the season. This is not way off the board or anything, but we just hadn't mentioned tight ends. The Brate thing might be a little bit more off the board, and it's a way that you can get different. Potentially playing him, in a Brady with two other receivers in Brady, or him with Bernard and one of Evans, Godwin, or Antonio Brown with Brady, something like that. And I think you could get different that way. You might get Antonio Brown for the 10 catches for 70 yards, but you get Brate for the 2 touchdowns, which we've seen from him a number of times on these small slates, and he's won me a bunch of money. So maybe I'm biased, but I think that certainly is a route that we could see. I don't think they need to overuse Gronk during the season and protect his body. So I love the idea of Brate and a little bit of Howard.
Yeah, I want to do. I'm gonna do this. I think I'm gonna do this every showdown slate. I think I'm gonna do until further notice. At least I'm gonna do 20 lineups in the whatever the cheapest one. You know what I mean? The lottery, and I'm gonna do one on the 180, and we'll just see how we do. I'm kind of into doing the showdowns this year.
I love it. Like, yeah, and there's. See, for me, I always find the showdowns which ones I like better. I think this is a good kind of showdown slate because there's so many options for Tampa Bay, especially, but even for Dallas, like Michael Gallup is look, even Cedric Wilson could get in there and vulture a touchdown and have a big play. We've seen this with Dallas before, where a receiver will come out of nowhere and have like 150 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns because because of the way that Dak can escape pressure and go through. It's different because Brady goes through his reads really quickly. Dak is going to escape some pressure and make some big plays to maybe his 3rd or 4th option. And I think that's where we can try and take advantage of this from a showdown perspective. It's the kind of game that I actually really like for showdowns. Last year it was the Bears guys always were getting there for me, as well as the Green Bay, Jamal Williams. I mean, I captained that guy like every time, and he actually really paid off for me big ones. Almost got me the big win, but I think I ended up in a tie for second in that one. So with like 10 people, but still, it was a pretty cool thing. Anyway, I think there are ways to get different. Again, I'm probably not going to do a live before lock for this particular, NFL showdown slate. We will be doing a live before lock at 11:30 Eastern for the main slate, and that's
so 11:30 Eastern Sunday.
Sunday, yes.
Okay.
We'll do a half hour at that time to sort of go through Q&A questions, and we'll do several videos throughout the week with myself, Rhodey, Sheep.
And the fact is, I mean, if you join if you go live before, whatever in our baseball stuff, I'm sure we'll probably just throw a couple of showdown things in there anyway. You know what I mean?
It's going to happen, especially today. People are going to want to talk some football. There's no question about it. It's going to absolutely happen. All right, man. Well, this should be fun. I'm going to send you one for the main slate next if you're good with that.
Let's do it.
All right. Good luck, everybody.